Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt resigned Thursday following a wave of revelations regarding his spending, ethics, and management at the agency. He is the fifth cabinet member to resign or be fired since President Trump took office last year. Even though more than 100 lawmakers called for Pruitt to step down, President Trump said, quote, no final straw had precipitated the resignation. President Trump tweeted Thursday that Andrew Wheeler, a former energy lobbyist, will step in as the EPA's acting head on Monday. Paula Reid is in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey with the latest.
Thanks to Republican leadership, America is winning again.
While President Trump spoke of the winning ways of his presidency, he was losing his fifth cabinet official, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt. Questions about Pruitt's excessive office spending, first-class air travel, and treatment of staff had Washington investigators working overtime. Pruitt was the subject of a House Oversight Committee investigation, 5 Inspector General audits, 7 pending Inspector General reviews, and 2 Government Accountability Office inquiries. In his resignation letter, Pruitt wrote that he was leaving in part because the unrelenting attacks on me personally, my family, are unprecedented and have taken a sizable toll on all of us. On Monday, Pruitt was confronted by a 6th grade teacher at a Washington restaurant.
I just wanted to urge you to resign because of what you're doing to the environment in our country.
Under fire for flying first class at taxpayer expense, Pruitt told Major Garrett in February that it was because of security concerns.
These threats have been unprecedented from the very beginning, and the quantity and type are unprecedented.
Tweeting about the resignation, President Trump said Pruitt's deputy, Andrew Wheeler, will continue on with our great and lasting EPA agenda. That worries environmentalists who say Wheeler, a former coal lobbyist, will pick up exactly where Pruitt left off, favoring the fossil fuel industry over the environment. Bob Deans of the Natural Resources Defense Council.
He has done everything he can to prevent us from doing anything to protect our children from the growing dangers of climate change.
And Paula joins me now. Paula, I want to take a look at the big picture here. Pruitt, of course, the scandals were in the newspapers for months, and his spending habits, his management decisions. Can you give us some more details, though, about the federal investigations that led up to this?
That's right. And as you just said, it was month after month, new ethics inquiry after new ethics inquiry. And these allegations were coming from members of both sides of the aisle, in addition to environmental groups and government watchdogs. Now, as you said, as we said in the story there, this had everything to do with his housing, his office supply spending, giving raises to political appointees. And the most recent allegations are that he was trying to sort of scrub certain meetings off of his official calendar. And that prompted several Democratic lawmakers to call for a federal investigation. But right now, I mean, these inquiries will continue for months, maybe at most perhaps a year. It'll be a long time before we get the full results. But as I said in that story, he had federal investigators working overtime.
And Paula, just so people get a sense of how much we're talking about here, we're not just showing a couple bullet points. We are literally scrolling through allegations of mismanagement. Lawmakers, both Republican and Democrat, cheered this resignation, but some people should say were saying that he should have been fired by the president. Why did the president stand by him for so long?
Well, this has been one of the questions we've been asking the White House and the president for quite some time. You see that scroll, our viewers see that scroll, we saw that scroll, and we said, what does it take for Scott Pruitt to be fired? And the president had nothing but praise for him. And that was consistent last night on Air Force One. Again, the president was praising him. He said that it was his idea to resign, and only because he didn't want to be a distraction. And why would the president not be apt to fire him? Well, we don't know what exactly is going on in the president's mind, but based on what the president has said, he appreciated his loyalty. We know that's very important to the president. But Pruitt was also delivering on the Trump campaign agenda. He was rolling back a lot of Obama-era regulations in terms of climate change, emissions, automobile emissions, some things on coal. So he was very pleased with that. He had deliverables, and he was also had a lot of praise for the president. Even in his resignation letter, he said that he admired the administration, everything that it was doing, and he believed that the president came to that office through the providence of God, not the Electoral College.
And to follow up on that, do we know if the president's support maybe started to waver a little bit because Pruitt was getting a lot of negative coverage, and maybe some of that negative coverage was splashing onto the president and his management style?
Well, there are certainly some concerns ahead of the midterm elections about certain voters not really having a stomach for this kind of sort of swampy behavior. But if the president had any misgivings, he certainly wasn't showing that. Again, just last night on his way to Montana on Air Force One, he talked to reporters and he had nothing but praise for Pruitt. He said he had done a great job. He hoped he had a great life and emphasized that this was Pruitt's idea. So if the president had any doubts, he wasn't showing it, but Pruitt had certainly lost the faith of members of both sides of the aisle and many, many career EPA officials.
All right, let's move on to Pruitt's replacement, Andrew Wheeler. In a new article that was published by Politico, environmentalists say Wheeler, who's a former coal lobbyist, should, quote, scare anyone who breathes. What can you tell us about Wheeler and why environmentalists are worried particularly about him?
Well, I think what they're trying to say is that he will just continue the Pruitt-era policies. He will continue rolling back a lot of environmental protections. Now, a lot of what we know about his views on this issue, independent of his work as a lobbyist for one of the largest coal businesses in America, we know that he was pressed on a lot of issues, specifically his views on science and specifically climate change during his confirmation hearing for that deputy position. And in those hearings, he said that he does believe that humans have had an impact on the climate, but the full extent of our impact is not fully understood. Now, when it comes to scientists, he admitted he is not a scientist, but said he would be willing to rely on the opinions of professional scientists. So I guess a grain of hope there for folks who are saying, you know, those things about anyone who breathes should be concerned.
Hope springs eternal. We'll see. Paula Reid, thank you very much.